The chamber was older than most stars that shone outside its wide crystal windows. It floated in slow orbit around a white dwarf, held in place by ancient machines that no one alive fully understood. The Galactic Concord had met here for thousands of cycles, and every wall carried the weight of past victories, quiet threats, and broken promises. The human delegation entered without ceremony. They did not wear armor. They did not carry visible weapons. Their clothes were dark, simple, and clean. Day Park walked at the front with calm steps, his hands folded behind his back. Ara Kim followed beside him, her face still and unreadable. Sun Li walked a half step behind them, eyes steady, observing everything without hurry. They were placed at the smallest platform in the chamber. It was not an accident. Above them, dozens of other platforms hovered at different heights, each holding representatives of powerful species. Some platforms were wide and bright, with banners and glowing symbols. Others were surrounded by guards and drones. The higher the platform, the louder the unspoken message. Humanity's platform was low and plain. Day Park did not look up at the others. He looked straight ahead, the chamber filled with sound as translators activated. Soft tones, sharp clicks, deep echoes, and strange vibrations layered over one another. To humans, it sounded like noise. To the Concord, it was order. A tall figure rose from a central platform. Its body was thin and pale, wrapped in flowing light that shifted colors as it moved. The emergency session of the Galactic Concord is now in order, the figure said. All recognized members are present. Ara Kim noticed the pause before the next sentence. All recognized members, the figure repeated. A few alien delegates glanced toward the humans. Some showed open amusement. Others showed polite boredom. None showed concern. Humanity had been labeled a junior species since its arrival on the galactic stage. Useful, creative, adaptable, but still young. Too young, many believed, to understand real power. The session began with long speeches. One species spoke of balance. Another spoke of shared responsibility. Another spoke of the dangers of chaos at the edges of known space. Words flowed smoothly, practiced, and empty. The same ideas were repeated again and again, shaped differently each time. Sun. Lee listened closely. He noticed how often. The speakers used the word stability. He noticed how often. They avoided the word control. Ara Kim noticed. Something else, each speech included a small reference to humanity. Sometimes it was praise. Sometimes it was concern. Sometimes it was a reminder of how quickly humans had risen and how dangerous such speed could be. Day Park said nothing. At last, the central figure gestured toward the human platform. The Concord recognizes the presence of the Terran Union, it said. Observer status as requested. A ripple of quiet laughter moved through the chamber. Observer status meant one thing. Humanity was allowed to listen, but not to shape the outcome. Day Park inclined his head slightly. We acknowledge the session, he said. His voice was calm. The translators softened his words, but they could not remove the weight behind them. The speeches continued. Charts appeared in the air, showing trade routes, patrol zones, and resource flows. Many of them glowed with human markers. Human ships had filled gaps in defense lines. Human engineers had stabilized failing systems. Human trade fleets had carried goods between species that no longer trusted each other. Ara Kim watched. As one chart shifted, several human markers dimmed. The Concord proposes a realignment, said another speaker, its voice sharp and metallic, to ensure long-term stability. The chart changed again. Human patrol zones were overlapped by Concord authority lines. Sun Li felt his jaw. Titan, Day Park remained still. No one asked for human input. They assumed consent. Hours passed. The chamber lights slowly dimmed and brightened to mark time. Some delegates rested. Others whispered among themselves. The humans did neither. They watched. They listened. They remembered Dr. Kim recalled the briefings before this session. The warnings. The data models that showed this exact outcome. She remembered how quiet the room had been when the final projection appeared. Humanity would either submit now or walk away forever. A new speaker rose, this one broad and heavy. Its platform reinforced with thick energy fields. Human expansion has been impressive, it said. But uncontrolled growth threatens the balance we protect. Inspection rights are a reasonable step. The word inspection echoed. Eric Kim felt the shift in the room. This was no longer subtle. Daypark finally lifted his gaze. Inspection of what? He asked. The question was simple. The tone was polite. Several delegates paused. They had not expected the humans to speak yet. Military production, the speaker replied. Strategic research. Artificial intelligence systems. For the good of all. Sun Li glanced at Ara Kim. She met his eyes for a brief moment. This was it. Daypark nodded slowly. We will consider your proposal, he said, and respond through proper channels. The speaker seemed satisfied. The chamber moved on. But the mood had changed. The humans felt it. So did a few others. The laughter faded. The speeches became shorter. Attention settled like dust. When the session ended, the central figure spoke again. The Concord thanks the Terran Union for its continued cooperation, it said. Park did not correct it. The human delegation turned and left. As the doors closed behind them, the noise of the chamber faded into silence. Only then did Sun Li exhale. They think we will bend, he said quietly. Era Kim nodded. They think we need them, she replied. Daypark stopped walking. He turned to face them. They think, he said, that silence means weakness. The corridor lights reflected softly off the smooth metal walls. Outside, distant stars burned without care for councils or treaties. Ara Kim folded her arms. They crossed the line, she said. Yes, Daypark replied. On schedule, far away beyond the reach of the Concorde. Human systems waited. Fleets stood ready, not for war, but for departure and for the first time in generations. The galaxy had the human ship moved away from the Concorde chamber without escort. No lights followed it. No signals were sent. The vast station returned to its slow orbit as if nothing important had happened. Inside the ship, the air was quiet. Daypark sat at the central table, his hands resting flat on the surface. Ara Kim stood near the viewport, watching the distant glow of the white dwarf fade behind them. Sun Li remained near the doorway, reading incoming data streams that flowed silently across his wrist. Display. No one spoke at first. They had learned long ago that the most important moments came after the meeting ended. The proposal has already spread, Sun Li said at last. Unofficial channels are active. Several species are discussing inspection teams. Ara Kim did not turn around. They are confident, she said. Too confident. Daypark nodded once. That means the pressure will increase, he replied. They will not wait for our answer. The ship entered jump space, stars stretching into thin lines before vanishing. Ara Kim turned back to the table. They used the word stability again, she said. They always do when they want control, yes, Sun Li said. And they believe we will accept it because we always have before. Daypark raised his eyes. We accepted cooperation, he said, not ownership. The jump ended. Human space unfolded around them in quiet order. Stations moved in clean patterns. Civilian traffic flowed without confusion. Defense platforms rested in silence. Inactive but awake. To an outside observer, it looked peaceful to Daypark. It looked ready. The ship docked at the Terran Union Council ring, a wide structure circling Earth at a careful distance. The planet below was half in shadow, its lights forming a soft web across the night side, as the delegation stepped onto the platform. Other humans waited. Huan Choi stood near the entrance, tall and still, his expression serious. Nari Song approached from the opposite side, her uniform marked with logistics command symbols. You expected this? Huan said, not as a question. Yes, Daypark replied. How bad? Nari asked. Ara Kim answered her. They want inspection rights, she said. Military research, everything. Nari let out a slow breath. So it begins. They moved into a secure chamber, its walls lined with quiet screens. As the door sealed, the noise of the station faded. Juan activated the central display. Lines of probability appeared, branching and shifting. The Concord believes this will end with negotiation, he said. They will push, then offer small compromises. They expect us to stay. And if we do not? Nari asked. Juan changed the display. Then the system breaks. He replied, Ara Kim studied the data. They depend on us more than they admit, she said. Trade, patrols, mediation. We fill the gaps they created. Daypark said, and they resent us for it. Silence settled again. Outside the chamber, Earth continued to turn. Daypark spoke softly. Send the advisory, he said. Nari nodded and began issuing commands. Across human space, signals moved faster than light. Fleet commanders received short messages. Civilian corporations received quiet warnings. Research stations locked sensitive systems. Behind deeper security layers, nothing dramatic happened. That was the point. Days passed, the Concord sent messages, wrapped in polite language. They asked when humanity would respond. They reminded the Terran Union of its responsibilities. They hinted at consequences. Humanity answered only once. The message was brief. We are reviewing the proposal. That was all in the Concord chamber. Frustration grew. Several species pushed for faster action. Others urged Patty. And a few noticed the changes already taking place along shared borders. Human patrol ships were leaving. Not suddenly. Not en masse. But one by one, the routes went dark. Pirate activity increased almost immediately. Minor conflicts flared, where human mediators once stood between rivals. Trade convoys slowed as human logistics support quietly vanished. The Concord. Notice they called another session. This time, the human platform remained empty. The Terran Union has not declined, one delegate said. They are delaying. It's a dangerous move, said another. Delay invites disorder. Then we must act, said a third. Inspection teams will proceed regardless. The decision was made without a vote, in human space. Juan Choi watched the signal arrive. They are sending teams, he said. Ara Kim closed. Her eyes for a moment. They chose, she said. Daypark. Stood, then so will we. Response was prepared with care. It was not long. It did not contain anger. It did not contain threats. It stated facts. The Terran Union would not permit inspections. The Terran Union would withdraw from all Concord enforcement. Agreements, the Terran Union would assume full responsibility for its space, effective immediately. The message was sent across the galaxy. Reactions followed. Some laughed, some protested, some panicked. Within hours, Concord command nodes lost access to human systems. Shared defense networks adjusted and found empty spaces where human support once existed. Nari Song oversaw the withdrawals. Clean exits only, she ordered. No disruption. No damage. Human crews followed instructions exactly. Stations were handed over without conflict. Data links were closed with proper notice. Trade agreements were fulfilled to the letter and ended. The galaxy felt it immediately. Daypark watched reports scroll past. They still think this is a bluff, Sunli said. Yes, Daypark replied. Because they cannot imagine walking away. Ara Kim looked at the planet below. We taught them how to rely on us, she said. Now they must learn what that cost. Far from Earth, the first inspection team reached the edge of human-controlled space. They were met by silence. Navigation. Beacons no longer answered. Docking codes failed. Automated warnings repeated a single message in calm tones. This region is under Terran Union authority. Unauthorized entry is not permitted. The team turned back. The Concord chamber erupted in argument. This is unacceptable, one delegate declared. They are destabilizing the balance. No, another replied quietly. They are removing themselves from it. No one wanted to admit what that truly meant. In human space, fleets continued to move, not toward war, but toward home. And as the galaxy strained under the weight of its own choices, humanity prepared to finish what it had started. The line had been crossed, and this time, there would be no return to silence. The announcement reached the galaxy in waves. At first, many did not understand it. The message carried no anger, no demand, no warning of force. It was written in clear, simple language and repeated across all public Concord channels. Translators struggled, not with the words, but with the meaning behind them. The Terran Union was leaving, not suspending. Participation, not protesting. Leaving Day Park stood in the broadcast room as the message went live. The room was quiet except for the low hum of equipment. Ara Kim and Sun Lee stood nearby, watching the same words appear on different screens. In dozens of languages, humanity formally withdrew from the Galactic Concord. All treaties were ended. All shared authority was revoked. All cooperation would continue only through direct. Equal agreements. Nothing more, nothing less. When the broadcast ended, no one spoke. Outside the room, Earth turned as it always had. People walked through streets, worked in factories, studied in schools, and slept under familiar skies. For most of humanity, nothing felt different, but far beyond Earth. The galaxy reacted. In the Concord chamber, the message played again and again. Delegates shouted. Platforms shifted position as speakers rose without order. The central figure struggled to restore calm. This is not how membership ends, one delegate said. You cannot simply walk away, said another. They are bluffing, a third insisted. They will return when pressure is applied. Yet even as they argued, reports arrived. Human access keys were expiring. Shared command systems, rejecting Concord authority. Joint fleets found their human ships gone. Their positions filled only by empty space. For the first time in centuries, the Concord felt something close to fear in human space. The withdrawal continued with careful order. Narration moved from station to station through secure channels. Overseeing each step, her voice was calm as she spoke to commanders and civilian leaders alike. Follow the schedule, she said. No delays. No shortcuts. Human crews followed the plan exactly. On distant trade hubs, human representatives closed offices that had stood for generations. They left records behind, clean and complete. They shook hands, exchanged formal goodbyes, and boarded ships without argument. Some alien partners watched in. Silence. Some pleaded. A few. Threatened. None were answered. Sun Lee reviewed intelligence. Updates as they streamed in. Border. Tensions are rising, he reported to Day Park. Several regions relied on human mediation. Old disputes are reopening. Day Park listened. They chose to ignore our role, he said. Now they will remember it. Arakim frowned slightly. Some of them truly believed we would accept inspection, she said. They thought we feared isolation. We do not fear being alone, Day Park replied. We fear losing choice. In the Concord chamber, a decision was finally forced through the chaos. Sanctions, human trade would be restricted. Financial systems would be closed. Access to shared markets would be denied. The vote passed. The sanctions were announced with strong language, heavy certainty, in human space. The announcement arrived and was quietly logged. Huan Choi studied the data. They are too late, said Ara. Kim nodded. Most of our dependencies ended years ago, she replied. They never noticed. The sanctions did little. Human markets adjusted. New routes opened. Old systems reactivated. Supplies flowed inward instead of outward. The Concord, however, began to feel the loss. Trade shortages spread across multiple sectors. Worlds that relied on human shipping faced delays in rationing. Maintenance schedules slipped where human engineers once worked. Pirate groups grew bolder. Without human patrols, shipping lanes became dangerous. Insurance rates rose. Smaller species begged the Concorde. For protection, the Concorde fleets were stretched thin. They had relied on humans to fill the gaps. Now, the gaps were empty. A week after the withdrawal, the first major incident occurred. A border system, long kept quiet by human presence, erupted into open conflict. Two rival powers clashed over mining rights, their fleets moving without restraint. Human observers watched from afar. They will ask us to intervene, Sun Li said. They already have, Arakim replied, holding up a message request. Daypark shook his head. Not yet, he said. They must learn the cost of assumption. The message was declined in the Concorde chamber. Anger turned inward. They are abandoning responsibility. One delegate shouted. They were never obligated, another replied. We treated them as tools. Blame shifted from humans to leadership. Confidence cracked at the edges of known space. Something else stirred. Human sensors detected unusual movement beyond former Concorde patrol lines. Old threats, long watched and contained, began to move again. Boralim monitored the data from a deep space array. They are testing the borders, she reported. They know the humans are gone. Daypark read the report carefully. Do not intervene, he said. Record everything. The choice was not easy. Human crews watched distress signals go unanswered. They watched Concorde fleets struggle where humans once stood beside them. Some questioned the decision. Kim addressed them directly. We did not choose this path lightly, she said. But if we return now, nothing changes. We must be willing to endure silence. Words spread through human space. Most understood, some did not. Time passed. The Concorde sent another message. This one was different. It did not threaten. It did not demand it. Asked for discussion. Daypark read it once, then set it aside. They are not ready yet, he said. Sun Li hesitated. How long do we wait? As long as it takes, Daypark replied. Far from Earth, Concorde fleet encountered the threat humanity had long contained. Without human coordination, the battle turned chaotic. Ships were lost. The fleet retreated in disorder. The report reached the Concorde chamber in fragments. Panic followed. Emergency. Sessions were called for the first time. Some delegates spoke the word they had avoided. Dependence. In human space. The news arrived quietly. Arakim closed her eyes. They were warned, she said. Double quotes. Yes, Daypark replied. Many times, the galaxy was learning a hard lesson, not through war, not through conquest, but through absence. Humanity had not raised a weapon, had not issued an ultimatum, had not demanded respect. They had simply walked away. And as systems failed, borders burned, and old dangers returned. The truth became impossible to ignore. The calm species at the edge of the Concorde had been holding everything together now. The galaxy stood on its own, and it was not ready. The galaxy did not break all at once. It cracked. Small failures appeared first. Navigation errors. Missed patrol windows. Trade convoys that arrived late or not at all. At first, the Concorde dismissed these as normal delays. Minor problems always existed, but these problems did not fade. They grew. On a border world once protected by joint fleets, alarms sounded without answer. Pirates struck shipping lanes that had been quiet for decades. Local defense forces responded too slowly. Unsure of command authority, now that human coordination nodes were gone, the attack was quick. By the time Concorde forces arrived, the damage was already done. Reports spread, other worlds began to worry. In human space, the same reports arrived, filtered through long-range observation systems. Bora Lim studied the data in silence, her eyes moving across streams of numbers and images. They are losing control faster than expected, she said. Daypark stood behind her, hands clasped behind his back. Control built on assumption collapses quickly, he replied. Arakim listened from across the room. The Concord still believes they can fix this by force, she said. They will try to show strength. If in answer. New signals appeared. Concord fleets were mobilizing, not against humanity. Against disorder, they spread their ships thin, trying to cover gaps once filled by human presence. Commanders argued over authority. Old rivalries returned. Sun Li watched intercepted communications. They are not coordinated, he said. Too many voices. Too many leaders. Nari Song joined the channel. Our withdrawal is almost complete, she reported. Last shared station will be cleared within 12 hours. Any incidents? Daypark asked. None, Nari replied. We left everything intact. As agreed. Daypark nodded. That matters, he said. Even if they do not see it yet. On the Concord capital world, panic finally reached public awareness. News feeds showed empty docks where human ships once rested. Markets struggled to replace missing goods. Citizens demanded answers. Leaders offered speeches. They spoke of betrayal. They spoke of irresponsibility. Few spoke of regret. A new emergency session was called. This time, the chamber felt different. Platforms that once shone with confidence now dimmed slightly. Guards stood closer. Voices were sharper, less controlled. One delegate rose. We must compel their return, it said. Humanity benefits from the Concord. They cannot stand alone, another answered. They already are, it said quietly, and we are the ones feeling the loss. Arguments followed. Sanctions were expanded. Threats were discussed. Even the idea of seizing human assets beyond Terran space was raised. The idea was recorded in human intelligence networks. Sun Li saw it appear. They are considering escalation, he said. Arakim felt a cold weight settle in her chest. They still do not understand, she said. Force will only confirm why we left. Daypark considered the information. They will test boundaries, he said. Let them see where they are. Days later, a Concord task force approached a human-operated relay station that had not yet been fully decommissioned. The station systems were still active, but human crews, already preparing to leave. The task force demanded access. The station commander refused. The Concord ships moved closer, weapons powered up. For a moment, war seemed possible. Then the station went dark. Human ships departed in silence, their drives flaring briefly before vanishing. The relay collapsed into standby mode, sealed by automated locks. The Concord task force found nothing to seize. No fight. No victory. Only emptiness. The incident spread fear through the Concord fleets. Humanity was not resisting. It was removing itself. Elsewhere, the consequences grew heavier. A major trade hub failed when replacement crews could not maintain systems humans once managed. Power fluctuated. Life support stuttered. Emergency teams worked for days to stabilize it. Too late. Thousands were displaced. The Concord blamed humanity, but privately. Some leaders began to ask harder questions. Why had humans been allowed to become so essential? Why had no one planned for their absence? In a quiet room aboard the Terran Union Council ring, Era Kim read a private message request. It came from a minor Concord species, one that had rarely spoken during sessions. They asked for advice, not aid. Advice. Era Kim hesitated, then showed it to Daypark. They are afraid, she said, and they are not alone. Daypark read the message. We answer honestly, he said, without promise. The reply was simple. Humanity had warned the Concord. Humanity had offered equal partnership. Humanity would not return under control. The message spread. Quietly among smaller species, some began to reconsider their loyalty. To the Concord, at the far edges of known space, the old threat moved again. Bora Lim watched as long-dormant signals activated. Patterns formed that matched ancient records. They are advancing, she said. Slowly, carefully. Toward whom? Sun Li asked. Everyone, Bora replied. The Concord noticed too late. Their outer defenses were weak. Human early warning systems had once fed data directly into Concord Command. Now those channels were closed. A frontier outpost went silent. Then another. The Concord scrambled fleets. But without clear intelligence, they moved blindly. Losses followed. Fear spread in the Concord chamber. Voices shook. We need them, one delegate said at last. The words hung in the air. We need the humans. Silence followed. Pride resisted. Reality pressed harder in human space. The same reports arrived. Era Kim felt the weight of them. They will ask us soon, she said. Yes, Day Park replied. And when they do, the question will not be whether we help. Sun Li looked up. It will be on what terms, he said. Human fleets completed their final returns. Defense lines reformed. Tighter and closer to home. Systems locked into independent networks, strong and stable. Humanity stood alone, not weak, not isolated, prepared across the galaxy. Systems failed, old powers struggled, new dangers rose, and slowly, painfully, the Concord began to understand the truth. Humanity had not been the youngest member of the galaxy, it had been its foundation. And without it, the structure was collapsing. Fear changed the sound of the galaxy. It moved through channels. And signals like a low echo that never faded. Distress calls overlapped. Emergency meetings followed one another without pause. Systems that had once felt distant and secure now seemed fragile. The Concord was losing control. On a world near the outer trade lanes, citizens gathered in public squares to watch damaged ships land. Some ships did not land at all. They burned in the upper atmosphere, their failures visible from the ground. Leaders promised protection, but protection did not arrive in the Concord command centers. The officers worked without rest. Maps changed too fast to track. Borders that once felt solid blurred into uncertainty. They had relied on human presence to smooth these edges. Now there was nothing to smooth them in human space. The noise was quieter. Reports still came in, but they were controlled, filtered, and steady. Human systems handled strain without panic. Reserves were released carefully. Civilian life adjusted, but did not collapse. Day Park watched the contrast grow. They are unraveling, Sun Li said. Not from attack. From confusion? Yes, Day Park replied. Confusion is what remains when authority is borrowed. Ara Kim stood nearby, reading messages from smaller species. Many were no longer official. They were personal. They ask if we will save them. She said. Day Park did not answer right away. We are not saviors, he said at last. We are neighbors. One message stood out. A minor trade species reported that a Concord fleet had failed to arrive during an attack. Their defense stations were damaged. Their people were afraid. Era Kim felt the weight of it. They did not choose this, she said. No, Day Park agreed. But the Concord did. The question hung between them. When does restraint become cruelty? Nari Song joined the channel. We have ships near that sector, she said. Defensive only. We can assist without engagement. Day Park considered it. Do it, he said, quietly. Human ships moved. They did not announce themselves. They did not claim authority. They stabilized orbits, restored power, and escorted civilians to safety. Then they left. Rescued species noticed. Word spread. Humanity was not absent. It was. Selective, the Concord noticed. 2. They are interfering, one delegate accused during another emergency session. They are preventing collapse, another replied. Something we failed to do. Arguments broke into factions. Some demanded punishment. Some demanded reconciliation. None agreed on timing at the same time. The old threat advanced further. Boralim tracked its movement with growing concern. They are not rushing, she said. They are watching us fail first. Sun Li looked at the data. They learned from us, he said. Patience. Observation. The Concorde fleets met the threat again. This time, they were better prepared. It was not enough. Without unified command, their formations broke. Orders conflicted. Retreat signals crossed advance. Commands. Ships were lost. The survivors fled. The report reached the Concorde chamber in silence. No one argued. The truth settled. Heavily, they could not manage this. Alone, a private meeting followed. Only a few delegates attended. No broadcasts. No observers. The question was spoken at last. How do we bring humanity back? Pride answered first. We demand it, one said. Fear answered next. We ask. Another said reason arrived late. We apologize, said a third. And we listen. The room stayed quiet. That idea frightened them most. In human space. The first official apology request arrived. Era Kim read it slowly. They admit error, she said. In careful words, they admit fear, Sun Li added. Between the lines, Daypark folded his hands. They're learning, he said. But learning is not the same as change. The request asked for talks, not inspections, not control. Talks Daypark did not answer immediately. He watched more reports arrive. More systems destabilized. More species quietly reached out to humanity for. Guidance.human advisors responded carefully, they explained. Logistics, they explained coordination. They did not explain obedience. The Concorde saw the pattern. Humanity was teaching without ruling. That unsettled them. Another incident followed. A Concorde fleet attempted to reclaim a former human patrol route by force. The operation failed when internal disputes delayed deployment. Pirates struck during the confusion. The fleet retreated. Public confidence collapsed. Protests erupted on core. World citizens demanded new leadership. Some leaders resigned, others disappeared. From public view, the Concorde was fracturing from within. In a quiet office overlooking Earth, Ara Kim spoke softly. We never wanted this, she said. Daypark looked at the planet below. No, he replied. We wanted respect. Sun Li leaned back, and now they understand the cost of ignoring it. The apology request was followed by another. Then another, different tones, different authors, all with the same core. Message, we were wrong. We need you, Day. Park gathered the council. Wan Choi, joined by Secure Link. Nari Song and Bora Lim stood nearby. We will respond, Daypark said. But not yet. How long? Wan asked. Until they stop asking us to fix things, Daypark replied, and start asking how to stand on their own. That moment came sooner than expected. A Concorde delegate sent a final message it did not ask for. Rescue, it asked for terms, equal. Terms.era Kim read it twice. They are ready, she said. Daypark nodded slowly. Then we speak, he said. Not as juniors, not as tools. Human fleets remained at the edge of their space, not advancing, not retreating, waiting across the galaxy. The panic did not vanish, but it changed. Fear turned into caution, arrogance turned into reflection, and in that fragile space between collapse and recovery, the Concorde finally understood what humanity had shown them all. Along power was not control. Power was choice, and humanity had chosen to walk away so the galaxy could learn how to stand. The request arrived without ceremony. It did not travel through public channels or formal broadcasts. It was sent through a narrow, secure line, one that the Concorde rarely used, and only in moments of true danger. It asked for a meeting, not a session, not a hearing. A meeting. Daypark read the message in silence. Era Kim stood beside him, her hands clasped in front of her. Sun Li waited near the wall, his expression unreadable. They are afraid, Ara said softly. Yes, Daypark replied. And they finally understand why. The Concorde proposed neutral ground. A small station, far from borders and power centers. No fleets, no guards beyond basic security. No public record equality. It was the first real sign of change. "We will attend," Despark said. "But on our terms?" Human conditions were simple. No threats, no demands, no assumption of authority. The Concorde agreed. The station was quiet when the human ship arrived. Its hull bore no weapons marks, no symbols of rank. It docked smoothly as if it had done so many times before. Inside, the corridors were plain and clean. The meeting room was small compared to the Concorde chamber. No floating platforms, no height differences. Just a round table and equal seats. Despark entered first. Arakim and Sunli followed. Moments later, the Concorde delegates arrived. They looked different now. Their movements were slower. Their voices, when they spoke, were careful. Gone was the easy confidence that once filled the great chamber. They sat for a long moment. No one spoke. Then one delegate leaned forward. "We misjudged humanity." It said, the words were simple. They carried. "Wait." Despark nodded once. "Yes," he replied. The delegate continued. "We believed control was stability," it said. "We believed dependence was order." Arakim listened closely. "And now?" she asked. "Now we see absence," the delegate said, "and the cost of arrogance." Silence followed. Sunli spoke next. "You want us to return?" he said. "Yes," the delegate replied, "but not as before." Despark leaned back slightly. "Explain," said the Concorde representatives exchanged glances. "We face a threat we cannot manage alone," one said. "Our fleets are weakened. Our systems divided. We ask for cooperation." Arakim's voice was calm. "On what terms?" she asked. The answer came carefully. "Equal authority," the delegate said. "Shared command. No inspections. No control." Despark did not answer immediately. Outside the station, distant stars burned quietly. "Humanity did not leave to gain power," he said at last. "We left to protect choice." "We understand," the delegate replied. "We did not before." Sunli studied their faces. "Words are easy," he said. "What will change?" The delegate hesitated, then spoke. "The Concorde will restructure," it said. "Smaller councils. Limited authority. Voluntary participation." Arakim felt surprise touch her expression. "That would end your dominance," she said. "Yes," the delegate replied. "It already has. It's the truth of it." Settled over the table, the Concorde had been built on control, disguised as unity. Humanity had exposed that lie by refusing to support it. Despark folded his hands. "We will not rejoin the Concorde," he said. The delegates stiffened, but he continued, "We will cooperate." "How?" one asked. "Case by case," Despark replied. "Clear threats, shared goals, equal voice." The delegates exchanged looks. "That is slower," one said. "Yes," Despark replied, "and safer." The meeting lasted hours. They spoke of fleets and supply lines, of early warning systems and shared intelligence, of mistakes made and trust broken. Humanity offered guidance, not orders. The Concorde listened when the meeting ended. No treaty was signed, no banners were raised, only a single agreement was recorded. Cooperation without control. As the human ship departed, Sunli looked back at the station. "They will struggle," he said. "Yes," Despark replied. "But struggle teaches strength." The galaxy did not heal quickly. Losses remained. Borders stayed unstable. The old threat still moved at the edges of known space, but something had changed. Concorde fleets no longer waited for human command. They coordinated, they learned. Human advisors shared systems, models, and defensive principles. They explained how humans had built resilience. Through redundancy and trust, they did not stay. They returned home when the threat struck again. The response was different. Concord fleets moved together. Orders were clear. Retreats were planned, not panicked. They still took losses, but they held the line. Bora Lim watched the data. They are improving, she said. Yes, Arakim replied, because they must. Humanity supported from a distance. Intelligence sharing. Logistics advice. Limited patrol coordination, no command, no ownership. The Concord sent regular updates, not demands, not complaints. Updates trust began to form. Slowly and carefully. On Earth, life continued. People followed the news with quiet interest. There was pride, but not triumph. Humanity had not won a war. It had held a line in the Terran Union Council ring. Daypark stood once more at the viewport. They finally listened, Arakim said. Yes, Daypark replied. Because we stopped speaking, Sunli smiled faintly. Silence can be powerful, he said. Daypark nodded, but only when backed by readiness. The galaxy adjusted to a new reality. No single authority, no hidden chains, just cooperation chosen. Not enforced, humanity remained apart, not isolated, respected, and as the stars turned and old dangers pressed closer, the lesson endured. Diplomacy did not fail because words were weak. It failed because respect was missing. Now, at last the galaxy was learning both. The galaxy did not return to what it had been. It could not. Too much had changed. Too many systems had failed, adapted, or broken apart. The age of quiet dependence was over, and nothing could restore it. In the months after the meeting, the Concord continued to weaken, but it did not collapse. It transformed. Large councils dissolved into smaller groups. Decisions took longer. Arguments were louder. Progress was slower, but it was. Real, no single species could hide behind authority. Anymore, every action had to be agreed upon. Every promise had to be kept. Humanity remained. Outside, Daypark watched this shift from the Terran Union Council ring. He stood at the viewport, Earth calm and bright beneath him. Ships moved in steady lines, following routes designed for resilience, not speed. They are learning, Arakim said, joining him. Yes, Daypark replied. The hard way. Human advisors continued to assist when asked. They offered guidance on supply chains, defensive planning, and crisis response. They never stayed long. They never took command. Other species began to copy human systems. Redundant networks replaced single points of failure. Local leaders were trained instead of replaced. Responsibility was spread, not concentrated. Slowly. Stability returned, not the old kind, a new one. The old threat remained. It still tested borders, still probed defenses. But now, the galaxy responded together. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but with shared purpose. Bora Lim tracked one final major encounter. Concord fleets moved with caution, supporting each other instead of competing. Losses occurred, but the line held. They did it, she said quietly. Yes, Sunli replied. Without us leading, that mattered. In the Concord's former capital system, a new assembly was formed. Smaller, simpler, and open to observation by any member species, humanity was invited. Daypark declined the seat. We will attend as neighbors, he said, not as rulers. The message spread across the galaxy. Some felt relief. Some felt shame. Many felt respect. On worlds once ignored by the Concord, local leaders spoke openly for the first time. They formed regional pacts. Trade routes reopened under shared protection. The galaxy became more complex, but also more honest. Era. Kim reviewed reports late one night. She paused at a message from a species humanity had once protected quietly. Without credit or notice, they thanked her. Not for saving them, for teaching them to stand. She forwarded the message to Daypark. He read it and said nothing. The answer was already written in everything humanity had done. Time. Past children on Earth grew up hearing stories of the moment humanity walked away, not as a tale of victory, but of choice, of knowing when to say no. They learned that power was not measured by how much one controlled, but by how much one refused to surrender far beyond Earth. The galaxy adjusted to that lesson. The Concorde's name faded from common use. It became history rather than authority. New alliances formed, smaller and flexible. Humanity was invited to many. Humanity joined few. Always on equal ground. One quiet day, Park prepared to step down from his role. Eric Kim and Sun Lee met him in the same room where the first withdrawal had been planned. "You changed everything," Sun Lee said. "No," Park replied. "We chose ourselves." Ara Kim smiled faintly. "And the galaxy had to adjust," she said. "Yes," Park agreed. "That was never our burden." As he left the room, the stars beyond the windows looked no different than they had before. Cold, distant, endless, but the space between them felt quieter, more balanced. Human fleets continued their patrols, not as guardians of others, but as protectors of home. They remained ready, not eager, prepared, not aggressive. Across the galaxy, the story spread. When diplomacy failed, humanity did not fight, it did not threaten, it did not beg. It walked away, and in doing so, it forced the galaxy to face itself. Not through fear, but through absence. That absence became a mirror, and what the galaxy saw changed it forever.